Hello, my Crafty Maven friends. It is I, Helen, with today's Sketch It video. I'm finally back on the Crafty Maven team after a stint in the Northern Hemisphere having a big adventure. I returned to Australia and returned, thankfully, thank you Hannah, to the Crafty Maven land and creating videos. I found my sketch on the Hip Kit Facebook page. It was there for a couple of weeks ago for their weekly challenge, and I quite liked the circle elements on it. Whilst I was away in England, I found these two stamp sets. Circle elements. I thought they'll definitely come in handy. I also got some new ink blending brushes whilst in England, and I used them to lay some of this Distress Oxide ink down on this double thick white basil card. And as you can see with this Fisker's punch, the thicker card probably wasn't a good idea, but I pulled out some of the other circle punches that I have. They went through that card really well, although I was limited then which size circles I could use. But after punching away, I got enough to start my layout. I was really drawn to those colours of Distress ink. They are my favourite kind of colour family, and I didn't have an idea where I was going to go from there. I just knew I wanted to use those stamps and some Distress inks. I pulled out this other stamp from the set so that I could stamp some of these circles onto the background cardstock. Another piece of double thick white from Basil. And after fiddling around, I then went looking for a photo. I did actually start with the photo this time. And I'm using a photo of my travels, a cup of coffee that I had at M&S one day. It's a story there for me and a memory that I want to keep, but probably not your normal photo that you would use. I went looking through my stash for a collection that I felt would complement the photo and the coloured Distress ink that I've already used, and I found the Paige Evans Horizon collection. What I did like about it too was this stamp set part of the collection with its circle elements. One was a map of the Northern Hemisphere and a couple of floral circles, which I stamped, and I did all my stamping using watering can, and I think that's what the ink's called. It's a soft grey ink from Archival anyway. The colours of the patterned paper in the Horizon collection didn't quite match perfectly with the coloured inks, and I wanted to try and tie it all together somehow. I was going to, or I do, mat the photo with some of the paper, and then I coloured up some spare corners of the piece of cardstock that I used with the Distress inks, just like you saw, so that way I could use those as layers in my matting to tie together the coloured paper and the inked circles. Yeah, you know what I mean. Plus I also punched some more circles from the patterned paper so that in the circle elements I had some inked ones and some patterned ones. And this way I could coordinate the Distress inks I've used and the colours in the patterned paper range. I hope that all made sense anyway. Some more fiddling, working out placement, but with all these things that I do, I look at it, think, yeah, that looks great, push it all off, and then go to rearrange it again and forget how I had it originally. It turns out something like this once I start sticking it down. I also wanted to incorporate some mixed media in the background, and I did think that this Distress ink was very similar to the green patterned paper. So I used the packaging technique, tried to splatter some around and squeeze them out. That didn't work, but got some ink on the background. When I was travelling and I went to the USA, I must admit I did kind of go a bit crazy in some of the stores that I was in and brought home an extra suitcase full of scrapbooking items and other craft things. And one thing that I did buy was a pack of the foam sheets with the adhesive on one side. I can't find them here in Australia, so I must admit I was a bit excited to find them and get to use them. So as you can see, I've put some on the photo, and I'm using some double-sided tape to stick it down. Added some thread behind that, and now, as I said before, I'm slowly sticking down all the circles. As I said before, they don't end up quite where I placed them previously. And when I do stick them all down, I realise that I have covered up quite a few of the smaller circles. So I will go back in and do some more stamping later. I've pulled out the chipboard elements from the Horizons collection and also the stickers, and I'm just going through adding some pieces that either have a circular feel or complement the colours. I decide that I'm going to call it M&S Adventure, mainly because there was the chipboard word adventure in it and it fitted. And this is where I've deviated from the sketch, and I'm adding an element up in that top left hand corner. I should say, for anybody who's watched my videos before from the Crafty Maven, once again, there was a mood board with colours, and I completely forgot about looking at those. Why should I really change? I never used to remember to do it before, and I probably won't remember again this time, or from here on in. Anyway, I found these little tiny letter stickers. I can't remember which range they come from, but I actually quite like them. They're very good for titles, and I just wanted to add a little touch of ink to it to make them stand out that little bit more. Here you go. See, I'm adding some more stamping in. This was one of the Horizon stamps as well, I think. Oh, no, I think this is from one of the sets I had actually. This is where I add little tiny stamps from the Horizon collection. I'm almost finished. I'm going to add some journaling. The journaling will tell how this was the memory for me was that this was the day I went and actually picked up my new car in England and went for a drive in it and ended up near where I was living at M&S. So although that photo is about me getting a cup of coffee at M&S and being there, it's more actually about that memory and excitement I had of driving my new car. If I could have packed it in my suitcase and brought it home with me, I would have. I loved that car. And hopefully one day I'll be able to buy one similar here in Australia. As you can see, just finishing off with a few little extras, looking at it, whether I like the placement or not. I did forget to mention I also added a couple of other sections of thread behind my three main groupings of embellishments. Also, I drew a hand border around the page because I just felt like it needed something to keep it in so that elements weren't falling off the page. And, oh, that's right, I went into my stash to find some enamel dots and these larger pieces that I found on an Etsy store. The colour was perfect and went. And that's about it. Hopefully I haven't rambled too much and you've enjoyed watching the process, maybe picked up something along the way, and I will see you soon when I return again for another Crafty Maven video. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, see you later. Bye.